let's start our Dev Dojo. We'd like to talk about Dev Dojo, Mercari mobile development. I'm Justin and Klaus.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Here's our today's content. First, we are going to talk about mobile development cycle overview, and after that, we dive into detail in each phase. And third, we're going to talk about tech stack. So term definitions in this presentation. So engineer means software engineer, and PM means product manager, not project manager. And QA is quality assurance, and PIC is person in charge. And other abbreviations are region or company's names. Okay. So let's move on to first topic, mobile development cycle overview. So we have this team structure in marketplace in Mercari. Let's say logistics or customer experience are an example of divisions, and each division has some functional teams. And functional teams means that teams consisted of iOS or Android or even backend engineers or product managers. We have people of many roles, and those different role members are cooperating and working together to make a feature. And we also have architect team. Architect team deal with company-wide technical issues so that each feature teams can concentrate on implementing features without dealing with technical difficulties. And next, development cycle overview is first, PM creates specs, and based on the specs, designers create UI design. And based on these specs and designs, engineers write technical design docs if necessary. And we ticketing planning. After that, we finally code and create PRs. And of course, review PRs among engineers. And engineers do self-QA, and QA engineers perform a QA. And some teams have dogfooding after or before QA. And finally, we release and monitor the feature. Okay, so let's dive in detail in each phase. So first, PM creates specs. PM creates specs, and these specifications are created in Confluence as PRD. PRD means product requirement document. And client engineers serve as engineering contact. So we have some tasks to do here. First, review the spec. You need to understand all the detail of the PRD. And you need to think about how to align our technical capability with these specs. And we need to provide feedback and have a constructive discussion with PM and raise any concerns. So let's say if PM suggests the way of implementing a feature, but you might come up with more simpler or efficient way of implementing. So in that case, you need to suggest that opinion. Next, designers create UI design. And designers create UI design. These are created on Figma. And client engineers should check about several things. First is transition way. We have several way of transitioning, like push, full modal, half modal. So make sure that transition way is logical, and so that users feel that transition is smooth. And second thing to check is use of design system. We have a design system that can achieve our united experience in whole app. So you can use a design system very easily, and you can implement the common UI pattern without having recreating it. But design system has some limitations, so please check that the designer suggested is aligned with design system. And if you cannot achieve that UI with design system, you need to note that, and we need to come up with how to proceed with it. Yeah, and next thing, error state and empty state. So if you look at design, sometimes API returns error or empty data. So we need to prepare for those situations. And lastly, platform-specific things. So apps are different from the web. So we need to submit our app to the platform. So we need to make sure that our app is aligned with the guideline of each platform. Then engineers write technical design docs. If the feature is very small, we sometimes don't write technical design docs. But for large feature, technical design docs very useful. Engineers write technical design doc before actual implementation. So this TDD helps us to think about many things before the actual implementation. By the way, there's another Dev Dojo session for design docs, so you can check it if you are interested in it. So in TDD, we check what we should do, technical design and MPI we need to call, and edge cases and conflict and platform specific details. So yeah. Do you want to add? So next is ticketing and planning. So Scrum members create ticket and having planning meetings. So again, each team is very different. So some teams are not applying Scrum methodology, but Scrum methodology is one very popular method in this company. So you may see a lot this one. And so ticket type hierarchy is something like this. So Epic is a root ticket for a feature. So Epic ticket is only one for one feature. And storage ticket is user storage ticket for one Epic ticket. So storage ticket title is usually who do what. So let's say you have a like functionalities, then storage ticket would be like users can like an item on item detail page. Then task is fine grinding ticket for one storage ticket. It's optional, but sometimes useful because storage ticket is kind of vague or very big. Let's say we have a storage ticket that says users can like an item on item detail, but from the engineering point of view, in this story, we have a UI, we have an API to call, we have error handling. So in this case, maybe we have a task tickets like creating UI and calling API, something like that. And next is have planning meeting based on create story or task ticket. So we have a meeting to estimate each ticket, how long we need in each ticket. So yeah, and we're gonna decide how many tickets will be included in a sprint. And code and create PRs. Engineers write code, and Flow is something like this. Engineers code and create PR. PR means pull requests on GitHub. And third, get reviews and have a discussion how to implement or how to improve the implementation on GitHub and make modification. And finally, merge after approval. We need at least one approval from other engineers to merge it into master. And CI status is very important. CI includes unit test, UI test, and snapshot test, etc. And we also have methodology to distribute dev app to employees. So non-client engineers can test that app by installing it on the Slack. And another thing I want to add is that we use trunk-based development style as branch management. So the idea is that we have a master branch and we make a branch from that. And if you implement a feature, you will merge it into master directory. We don't make a feature branch and we tend to be big. So in this way, we can keep our working branch is relatively up to date and very small and manageable. So in this methodology, the feature flags is very important. So please make sure that protect new features or bug fixes behind the feature flags to keep master stable. And QA engineer do QA. We have dedicated QA members for each team. And QA is quality assurance. But QA is not simply manual tests. They have a structured test plan, and they are doing very important role to assure the quality. And also, mobile engineers are also responsible for QA. So we need to work together to make sure the feature is stable. And TestRail is used for managing test cases. I don't have much experience with TestRail, to be honest, but this tool is used in some teams. Oh, and dog fooding. And some teams do dog fooding before or after QA as well. And for by the way, dog fooding is internal testing that you test your app by yourself before releasing the app to users. The flow is something like this: create a dog fooding conference or documentation and schedule a meeting with team to dog food together. And in that meeting, we discuss on feedbacks and take actions accordingly.
We sometimes also have like company-wide dog fooding. We have like dog fooding bukatsu, which is interesting concept.
So last, finally, we release and monitor the feature. And we need to get approval from platform so to release new versions. So platform means Apple for iOS and Google for Android. And Flow is something like this. We cut the release branch Wednesdays at 4 a.m. 4 p.m. Sorry. OM is too early. Yeah. And we have released judgment test on Thursday. If we pass the test, we submit to each app store or Google Play Store on Thursday. And we wait for reviews from those platforms. And if it's rejected, it sometimes happens. The release team handle the reviews, and we sometimes resubmit it or renegotiate it with the platform. And on next Tuesday, we release the new version of applications. And we are doing staged rollout. So staged rollout is the app is released to everyone, if you are interested. And monitoring. Engineers should also check crash status after the release. And hotfix release is needed if crash status is severe. And we use Crashlytics for monitoring. So then let's move on to next steps.
Yeah, I guess I'll talk a little bit more technical. So yeah, we talked about the feature flags and Laplace, the feature flags. So yeah, we have the feature flags that are controlled. The feature flags are controlled by the backend. We have pretty complex system of managing the different configurations and rollouts. We have pretty powerful system of being able to target different cohorts of the app users with specific feature flags, infrastructure changes or whatever. So we try to be very, very careful whenever we release something to make sure we're not regressing something. Yeah, we also have our own logging platform called Laplace, which is a French mathematician from 18th century. But yeah, it's also like pretty powerful. We don't send our logs data to Google or Datadog or whatever for client side. We own it, and we have like well-structured log schema. It's using protobuf, so we can do some very nice analytics on this. And usually we try to define the analytic events before we start implementation. So we know like what do we need to track, where do we want to know about the feature to know whether it's performing as well as we hoped. Yeah, so with feature flag and Laplace together, we can like do data-driven development, so we can know like has releasing a change led to a decrease in transactions being completed, or was there more crashes, or did that cause like less people to browse less, which is pretty nice. We can be pretty confident that our releases are performing as well as we hope them to, and that we're not making the experience noticeably worse for the users. Yeah, we already mentioned the design system. So design system also exists in code, of course. The idea of this is like we want Mercari to look very similar whenever you look at it. We want to be able to see like that's Mercari. So we have our own design system that we use for that, and the way that it works, we have defined some components, like for example, like buttons that have specific styles, and then whenever designers create screens for us to implement, they tell us like just use the button style, large size, whatever, padding, whatever. That's very well defined. We don't have to usually. You very rarely need to do something that's not that's not just using existing components. Just basically assemble stuff from Lego blocks, so to say. Yeah, the design system is defined in Figma, and there's a zero height, which is also like a design-ish thing to look at other design system components. Yeah, also like you never have to worry about like what color something should be. They all like have specific names, and they're all in every Figma file. they're being referred to by that name, not just like a hex code or whatever, to make sure we use the same colors everywhere. On iOS specifically, we have called something called playbooks, which is the way we create UI tests. This is also like as a component library. So you can see in the middle there, that's like that's like a screen which shows all different variants of a button that can look like, and that the whole thing is like 10 pages, 10 screenfuls long. It can include like either like just small components like this, or it can be like whole pages, whole screens. It's also like standalone app. So if you want to build the app, you can do it on your Mac to see like here's how the different screens looks like. And you can see like we have 1,200 of those. So a lot of teams use them to make sure that like whenever we make changes, that like we're not accidentally breaking the UI in some ways, because they're also running in CI, and they're getting in CI whenever you make a PR, they're getting regenerated, and they're being compared with the previous known version. So if there are any changes, you are alerted to them that like the change you made changed how some components look like. Yeah, that's been mostly what we prepared for today. We have some iOS channels we hang out with if you wanna take a look. I think actually our onboarding docs for both iOS and Android are also pretty good if you just want to learn more on how to start contributing. But yeah, that's where you can find us. And yeah, if anyhow, that's been it. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions or want to learn more, we're here to answer any questions.